All right, guys, so let's get going on our next lesson here, where we're going to take a look at another, kind of beginner thing that we want to cover with you. We're going to talk about the different types of information we can use with our Swift code, and when we get into our apps, some of the different things you're going to have to use. So let's go ahead and make a new playground. We'll go ahead and just call this. Just go ahead and call this types. I keep it simple here. All right, and then make sure we're on iOS and click on next just to get into our playgrounds. As always, save that up somewhere, wherever you're going to put all your documents, and then let's get going here. So types, all right, so there's, we talked about variables earlier here, where, a variable is going to store information. Well, within Swift language, there's different types of information to store. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at today. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is ints. All right, so ints are basically whole numbers. And we have a little definition here, whole numbers. Okay, yes, pretty simple there. So ints are whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it keeps it pretty simple. All right, so its most simplest form. All right, so we created a variable var int type. All right, and again, if we want to go ahead and cast that as an int and set that equal to 5, we've created ourselves an int. So again, it's a whole number, not a decimal. If I were to put a 5.0 in there, that's now a different type there, and I'm getting an error. We'll cover what type this is in a little bit here, but again, if you say it's going to be an int, it can only be 5, it could be 8, it could be 10, it can be 100, it can be anything. That's a whole number, would be fine for an int. Okay, so that's what an int is. The next number type we can use is called a double. Just click OK on that. All right, so basically a double is a number with decimals. Okay, so now when you think back to that error I just created, that would be a double. So let's create one. So we can go var double type, and that's going to equal to 2.2 or something like that. So now since we've cast it as a double, actually before we get ahead of ourselves, let's go ahead and put that double in there, specifically telling our code what we want it to be. Okay, I apologize for this pop-up message coming here. We've got our double 2.2. Okay, so again, it's a decimal, it's 2.2. If I were to take away the decimal and leave it as a 2, okay, again, it's in this case, it can still read that as a double, but since we're casting it as that, let's have the decimal in there. Okay, so those are the two main number types we're going to work with in this class: ints and doubles. Ints are whole numbers, doubles are going to work with decimals. Okay, another type, all right, is what about if we want to use words in our code? So hello, hi, thank you, different types of words. We can do that, and we call those strings. Okay, so a string is basically a line of text that we want to use. Okay, so an example of that would be, let's create a variable var string type, cast that as a string. All right, now the key whenever you want to use a word in your code or a string is you got to use quotation marks. All right, so these two quotation marks here give me the ability to create a string, so I can put anything in here. I can just type in hello. All right, and then you'll see in the compiler over here that it comes out as hello. Okay, if I were just to get rid of the quotes on that, you're going to see that's an error, all right, because Swift doesn't like that. The error is going to say use of unresolved identifier hello, because it's not sure what that is. Okay, so if you want it to be a string, must have quotes around it. Okay, that makes it kind of like when you quote something, same idea. You have, make that string active and available, put quotes around it. Okay, and so as we're creating all these types, when you think back to the variable lesson from the other day, it's the same idea. Now that I've created a string type variable, when I call string type, again, it's bringing that hello value with it. See, so everything's kind of starting to tie together. So again, each day kind of builds on the last. So now we're just talking about the different types of variables we can make. So we've talked about ints, doubles, strings. All right, let's talk about Boolean values. Okay, so a bool, basically this has either one of two values, true or false. Okay, so how this works, so this is a lot of times when you're testing things in code or you have a condition in place, or you'd want to use a bool. Okay, so you could go var bool type, then of type bool, and then if you set that equal to true, okay, so that means bool type is always going to be equal to true, or you could obviously change that to false. Okay, true or false. All right, so when you're working with bools, though, it's got to be one or the other, true or false there. And again, when we use those later in the semester, we'll be using those to test conditions and make different things happen on our apps based on what the user does. So a little preview of that, just we'll use later down the line. Hey, what's up?